Hello, this is Bob Felsenthal, publisher of BtoB Magazine and BtoB Online. I'd like to welcome you to this leading edge session, Give Them What They Want, Customer-Oriented Demand Generation. Savvy marketers know that if they listen to their prospects and give them what they want, not what they think they want, successful sales are far more likely. This webinar will look at how you can create campaigns that fit your customers' needs, not your own. The sponsor for this session is emedia. emedia has been specializing in online lead generation campaigns for the B2B sector for over 10 years. The company executes guaranteed cost per lead and traffic generation campaigns for nearly 90 North American B2B audiences. Engaging professionals looking to learn more about client solutions, emedia promotes marketers' quality content such as white papers, webinars, product trials, etc., and enjoys solid relationships with responsive audiences throughout IT, finance, HR, construction, marketing management, small business, healthcare tech, supply chain, and a host of other markets. Geographic coverage encompasses Europe and Australia as well as North America. The moderator for today's session is Kate Maddox, Executive Editor of BtoB.
Thanks for that introduction, Bob. Before we begin, let's take care of some housekeeping. If you would like to ask questions of today's speakers, please use the questions box at the lower left of this window. If you would like to download the slide deck used for the presentation, you may do so using the button directly below this window. And now, let's get to today's webinar, Give Them What They Want, Customer-Oriented Demand Generation. Demand generation is one of the most important elements of a marketer's job. According to BtoB's 2013 Outlook survey, published in January, demand generation was cited as the top marketing priority by 69% of B2B marketers. The process relies on multiple factors and many channels. Today, there are more tools and metrics available to help marketers improve lead generation, including social media tracking, closed-loop ROI reporting, lead scoring, and SEO keyword reporting. And as prospects become savvier, marketers must create responsive campaigns that allow buyers to find what they're looking for. Our speakers today will provide insight to help marketers improve their online lead generation campaigns. Today's presentations are by Jeff Perkins, Vice President Global Online Marketing at conferencing and collaboration solutions company Premier Global Services. Jeff was previously responsible for all B2B marketing programs at autotrader.com, including print and online ad campaigns, website development, collateral, trade shows, direct mail, and email marketing. And we have Robert Drew, who is the marketing manager at emedia. He describes his role as the lead generator for a lead generation firm. Prior to his current role, Robert developed and launched In-Stock Fasteners, an e-commerce site for industrial buyers and contractors, and contributed to the growth of several other B2B ventures. Jeff, let's begin with you.
Thanks, Kate. It's great to be here with you and talk about an important topic to B2B marketers like lead generation. I titled this presentation, Content is Not a Strategy. Content is what many B2B marketers see as kind of the holy grail these days. It's the way to attract more leads into the funnel. And I had a friend I was talking to recently, and I asked him, what are your strategies for 2013 to generate more leads? And he said, content. Content's my strategy. And one of the things I'd like you to take away from this is that, yes, content is an important lead generation tool, and in many ways, in this day and age, a critical lead generation tool. But at the same time, content is not a strategy. Content is a tactic, so it's very important as marketers that we're doing a good job defining our strategies and then figuring out how content as a tactic fits into that strategy. So let's begin. I'll start just talking a little bit about who I am. I instead of showing you a picture of myself, I usually like to show pictures of my two daughters, one age 5 and one age 2. It's just a nicer to look at than me, I think. But I am the VP of Global Online Marketing at a company called PGI that I'll talk about in a little bit. Before PGI, I was at autotrader.com, and prior to Autotrader, I worked in the advertising agency world in New York. And just put my contact information up here. You could connect with me on Twitter or check out my blog, singlemindedproposition.com. So the company I work for now, PGI, or Premier Global Services, we are a leader in what we call virtual meetings. So whether it's online meetings or audio meetings, we specialize in helping people connect and collaborate when they can't all be in the same office or in the same conference room. We have about 40,000 customers worldwide. We work with global enterprise, so we power 75% of the Fortune 100, and every month we connect about 17 million people together in about 4 million meetings. We have about 1,700 employees, and we are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll tell you briefly about the products that PGI sells. The big part of our business is in the web conferencing space or the online meeting space. So we sell 2 products that help companies with online meetings, and those products are iMeet and Global Meet. Global Meet is what I would call a more traditional web conferencing service. So if you use a WebEx or a GoToMeeting, Global Meet is very similar in the features and functionality and a very good option. And then there's iMeet, which is our kind of attempt to recreate online meetings in a more innovative way. All of our products are cloud-based, so they don't require guest downloads, and they work across computer, tablet, smartphone. And if you want more information or free trials, just visit pgi.com and we can get you set up. So back to the topic at hand about lead gen and content. The statement I want to make about this is that, content, like I said before, is not a strategy. Content should always be viewed as a solution to a problem, solution to a business problem. So it's critical for marketers to be able to define what our problem is before we figure out that we need content as a solution. And I'm going to talk about my past experience first at autotrader.com and then switch to talk about what we're doing today at PGI. But at AutoTrader, we were in an interesting business situation because we had all the customers that we needed, which for a lot of marketers is kind of this kind of strange nirvana state where you can't really believe that it's true. But we worked with almost every car dealer across the country. They were all on our product. So our issue wasn't necessarily we needed to drive a lot of lead gen. Our issue was much more around low customer satisfaction and a high churn rate, which sometimes happens when you have a large customer base. You just can't service all the customers that you have. So we saw content as a solution to this problem. And we developed something called the Dealer Learning Center. So this was a tool, an online tool, that really provided dealers with a lot of information so they can get the most out of their investment with autotrader.com. And I'm going to go through, we had a variety of topics that you see here. We showed best practices, insights about online marketing, research reports, how to use our products. So this was really a one-stop shop where as a customer you could come and get some very valuable content, very valuable information that will help you do your job better and will help you get the most out of your investment with AutoTrader's products. One of the things we found most successful from a content perspective was packaging up our research. Now, AutoTrader did a lot of research every month. We actually sat on a mountain of really interesting data because we were able to see in real time what car shoppers were doing all over the country, what cars were hot, what cars were not. And we would package that up in a very customer-friendly way. And those were always our most popular assets when we had this research content that really provided some insight, but it did it in a very digestible way. You can't just send customers a 100-page PowerPoint document or a huge Excel spreadsheet and expect them to actually look through it and study it. So having this kind of nice packaged up research really works hard for any content program. Another content strategy that we found to be very successful was actually using different forms of content. So we had white papers, we had one-pagers, we also used video, because we found that different customers wanted to consume different types of information and really consume what they wanted. So some customers loved thick research reports. Other customers couldn't be bothered, but they would just sit there during their lunch break and they would watch a 5-minute video. So the point is, it's very important to have both forms of content as part of your overall content strategy. But this Dealer Learning Center was very successful. We actually tracked a lot of the results for it over time. We saw dramatic improvements in our customer satisfaction. We actually saw our customer churn rate go from about 5% of our customers every month to less than 1% a month. And then as we really polled our customers to see what their perceptions were about AutoTrader, the most common theme was that we were seen as a partner. When we went from being just a vendor to being seen as a partner. And over that same time period, we saw a very significant increase in our customer sales, and we were basically getting our current customers, our base of customers, to pay us more. So that was really one of my first attempts at developing a really robust content marketing program, and it was very successful. And now I'm going to move on to PGI, where we had a very different business problem. And this is a problem that most B2B marketers struggle with, is how do you drive qualified leads in a highly competitive category? We're all competing for a finite number of customers, and how do you do it as effectively and efficiently as possible? Do you get those customers to learn about you and then to interact with you and eventually buy something from you? So in thinking about lead gen, it's always good to think about what we call the funnel. And this is a picture of the traditional funnel that we all know and love. And, what happens is you generate awareness for your product or service, and the leads kind of start at the top, and good marketers will kind of hold their hands and serve them different types of content or offers that will get them slowly down until eventually they fall out the bottom of the funnel. And, it's seen as somewhat of a linear path from top to bottom. My view is that the funnel, as we've been taught in school, and that we talk about, is largely irrelevant in many ways. I'm not even sure it exists, I've thought for a while that the funnel is dead. And actually, I went to Google and I Googled that term, the funnel is dead, and I got over 4 million results on that. So I guess that means I'm somewhat unoriginal in that thinking, but it also shows you that a lot of marketers really don't think there is such thing as a funnel. It's a simple framework to wrap your head around. But as I think about the customer journey to purchase, it's very hard to put customers in a very defined persona that will determine how they act and how you get them to purchase. And I've gone back through a lot of the customers that we've acquired over the last 6 months, and I went to see if I could find some kind of pattern to show you that, okay, customers go from point A to point B to point C and then they buy. And unfortunately, it just doesn't exist. It's just not reality. And I'm going to show you what I mean. So here are just 3 customers that we signed over the last 6 months. Customer number 1, she's a VP at a mid-sized company. She came in to our website. She signed up for a free trial during her first visit to evaluate our product. She came back a week later, and she downloaded an ebook that we had up there. And a week after that, she called a rep to sign up for 5 licenses. So if you were thinking about a traditional funnel, this customer actually did something that you wouldn't expect, because she started with a trial of the product, and then she downloaded some content. Usually in a traditional view, it would happen the other way around, but we were very happy that she eventually did sign up for 5 licenses of the product. Customer number 2, this is an entrepreneur who is starting a new business. So this gentleman, he visited PGI.com. He didn't want to do a trial. He just wanted to talk to a sales rep. So he called the 800 number on our website. He talked to a rep about 12 times over a 3-month period. Eventually, he did do a trial, but then he signed up for one single license. So the rep who worked with this gentleman had to work very, very hard to get this prospect to sign up for just a single license, and it was about a 3-month sales cycle for a small deal. And customer number 3, mid-level manager of a small company. He also visited our website. He initiated an online chat with one of our sales reps, and that same day he signed a 10 license deal. So the reason I show you this is that it's hard to put people in specific buying segments. As much as we try, as much as we want to, getting customers to look like a persona is very hard. And I like to say that, real buyers in the real world are not personas. And in fact, each individual brings his or her own style and sensibility to the purchase process. That is a inconvenient truth for many marketers who would like to have set personas because it makes it simpler in many ways to do effective marketing. But the reality is you have to, in many ways, be everything to everyone in your marketing. You have to provide people a variety of content so they could choose your own path to consume it. You have to work with a lot of different types of lead vendors who are going to get as many customers as possible to your website. But when they get there, it's critical for you to make sure you're providing them with breadth of content and depth of content. So when I talk about this idea of the funnel is dead, as marketers, we need a new framework. So I like to say that it's not a sales funnel, but maybe a sales cocktail shaker. So, customers get poured in, they kind of swish around for a while and get stirred up in the shaker, and eventually they pour out and they become, they go from a prospect to a customer. But what they do kind of in that cocktail shaker, it will vary by person and it will vary and it will be on their terms. And the stat I put on this page I think is an interesting one. Buyers in that shaker, if you ask what they're doing, they're doing a lot of research. And in fact, buyers are about 70% of the way through the purchase process today before they even engage with a sales rep. Now that is, it's very scary to a lot of companies to think about that. Companies that have large direct sales forces with people who are emailing and cold calling all day, you would hope that you're able to kind of influence the buyer. But what this shows you is the buyers are going to evaluate your products on their time and on their terms, and they will engage and they'll raise their hand when they're ready. So as marketers, we have to think about what are they doing during that 70% of the time before they engage with a rep. Google did some very interesting research, and they tried to gauge what B2B customers do when they're evaluating products. And this is what they're doing. They are going to search engines, and they're going to brand websites or product websites. Those are the two main things that customers are doing before they engage with a sales rep. So what this means is it's critical for companies to have a really strong presence on Google and to have really strong websites. Otherwise, customers are going to eliminate you from the evaluation process. So it's a critical part of being an effective marketer today. And one of the ways to be effective on search engines and on your website is through content. Content could be a tremendous traffic driver for many, many companies. PGI, for example, we are our business is in the meeting space. We are in the online meeting, virtual collaboration space. So what do people do when they have online meetings? Well, many of them share presentations or they make presentations. So for many years, we have been writing content about giving people ideas on how to make more effective presentations. And actually, if you Google presentation ideas, the term presentation ideas, PGI very often will come up as number one in the search results. And this is significant because when we analyze which terms are driving the most traffic to PGI.com, and you could see it here, many of the terms are branded terms. But then you see the number 3 term and the number 7 term, presentation ideas and fun presentation ideas, are driving thousands of people into our website every month. These are people who are interested in consuming content, and some of them may never become customers, but many of them, it will get PGI on the radar. It'll raise awareness, and eventually when they are in market, they will come back to us and they'll think of PGI first for their online meeting needs. So we see content as a core part of our strategy in attracting customers to our site and getting them to understand what we offer and why it's better than the competition. So to help with this, we just launched what we're calling the PGI Learning Space. And this is a site that you can look at. It's pgi.com/learn. And the Learning Space is a site that features hundreds and hundreds of articles about various topics. And we designed the space in a certain way, and you can see it here. The first thing you'll see is we created what is a hero panel, and this rotates through various topics. But first, when you land on the page, you're able to kind of see the things that we think are the most relevant pieces of content. But if you don't find what you want there, you can move over to the right where we've created this easy nav where you could explore by topic or by role. I said it before, customers are going to search on their terms, so some customers may prefer to look at specific topics, while others may say, well, I'm a salesperson, I only want to see topics that are relevant to salespeople, or I'm in IT, I want to see what IT content you have. So we believe in giving customers both paths to get to the content that would be most relevant to them. And then, of course, you have some snippets from the different content we have packaged up so people could kind of easily peruse what we have to offer and see if it's relevant to them. And when you're ready, you could go and read an article about presentation ideas. And we also have an extensive video library. And I said earlier, it's very important to have different types of content. So you need those shorter articles, infographics, videos, because customers will select what's most relevant to them and the way they want to consume your content. Another important way to kind of surface your content throughout your marketing is putting it in prominent positions. So we have our learning site that's an important part of our overall online sales experience. But we also take high-value real estate like our homepage, and we surface the content there. So here you can see this is the homepage of PGI.com. This is our most trafficked page. And right on the homepage, we have a call out to download a new ebook. Now, that's not really driving sales in the short term for us, but we know that's a great way to attract customers, to give them a high-value piece of content that will keep them engaged and may open up some doors, to future conversations. And, of course, they click off. They have a landing page here. They have to give us a little bit of information about themselves, so they go into our database, and then they're able to download that ebook. Now, when we look at some of the initial results from our learning site, we launched it on April 25th this year. Since we launched, we've had about 8,500 page views. We get about 212 page views a day. So to us, this is a good indicator that we're creating content, or we have content that is interesting to people coming to our site. That section of the site ranks in the top 10 of our overall site as far as traffic goes. So it's become a nice part of the site from a traffic perspective. But then when we look at what's happened to the premium content that we placed within the learning site, so that's content that you do have to give us some information in order for you to get the content, you could see we've had about 4,300 people click through to try to get the content, and we've converted about 26% of them. So some people get to premium content and they say, you know what, I'm not going to give you my information. It's not worth it to me. But other people say, well, I'm going to give you my name and email address because, that's a really interesting topic and I would really like that ebook. And so we're running at about a 26% submission rate right now. But the last number is the number that we're most happy about. So of the people who signed up to download our premium content, about 779 of those have been new prospects. So these are customers that we weren't talking to before, that we didn't have a relationship, and now we've got them into our nurture path, and we're able to kind of message them over time. So eventually the idea is we will nurture them through to become customers when they're in market and when they're ready to buy. So it's very important when you're thinking about your content strategy that you're putting it in some kind of strategic framework. And this is a framework that I've found very useful when we're approaching our content development, because content is challenging in a lot of ways, because you could develop content about anything and everything. But here, this gives you kind of a clean map. And so the way I kind of like to set up the matrix is looking at, is the content primarily for current customers, or is the content for prospects? Is the content going to be more product-centric content or more insight-centric content? And so you could actually map the kind of content by each quadrant. So if you want content about that your products that's really geared towards prospects, here's some of the things you want to do. Have features and benefit sheets, pricing sheets, competitive comparison charts, tech specs, use cases, customer testimonials, ROI calculators. Those are all of the product-centric pieces that are going to help your customers make a purchase decision. Then you go to the upper left quadrant. So if you're talking with current customers and you want product-centric information, this is the information that's going to help them get the most value out of their investment. It's also very important information. Here you're talking about user guides and tips and tricks, product release notes, best practices, FAQs. Again, very, very important content to have, so your customers who have signed on will be able to, will stay with you longer. Then when you go to the upper right quadrant, this is for current customers, and this is more insight-centric. And this provides added value to current customers to keep those customers engaged. And that's insights and ideas, research, analysis and metrics, specialized expertise. This is very, very important content that your customers will like and they'll see value in, and it will help them. It hopefully will help them stay with your company longer. And what's interesting when you think about the last quadrant, the content that's aimed towards prospects and is insight-centric, it's very similar to the content you're developing for current customers. So I would say that whatever content you develop that's insight-centric, don't just focus it on prospects. That kind of content could be very valuable to current customers, and we all know that in many ways it's easier to get more business from customers you have than to go out and prospect new customers. So don't forget about current customers when you're developing great insight-centric content, because it could help you get more from what you have. So that really concludes my presentation. Here are just a few lessons that I've learned over the years working at both AutoTrader and PGI. First and foremost, content needs to be a solution to a problem. Content in and of itself is not a strategy. So it's important for marketers to really define what your issue is that's affecting your business, and then decide if content is the right tactic to help solve your problem. The second point is that the funnel is not some linear process that goes from point A to point B to point C. The funnel is very complex. I would say the funnel doesn't really exist. Buyers all have a customer journey, and they go through their own process to go from being a prospect to being a customer. But in many ways, that's an individual journey. So it's important that marketers understand this, that we're developing a breadth and depth of content, so you're appealing to really any customer, and you're giving them the opportunity to select the content that's relevant to them that will help them make the purchase. So it's critical. And if you're working with agencies or you're working with different vendors, it's important that your vendors understand that as well. And then they're not forcing you into a kind of a one-size-fits-all program, and that they understand the landscape of today's shoppers and today's prospects, and they're able to help you get some of the most qualified customers and get them engaged with your products or services. It's critical to track and analyze. Everything we do online, we look closely at the numbers to see what's most relevant, what's working. If we find something is working, we make it more prominent. It's a key part of improving and getting more efficient and more effective in your online marketing program. It's key to use different types of content. One size does not fit all for content, and the fact is different customers will engage with the content that they find most relevant. So some would prefer a longer ebook, while others want a video, and others just want to read a quick blog post or an infographic. So it's important to offer really that diversity of your content. It's also key that you look for, if you're using outside agencies or vendors to develop the content for you, that they give you a plan that will give you different types of content. They're not just doing one single kind of content. Very important to leverage your content not just with prospects. It's a common mistake to just think prospects are the only ones interested in your content. Your current customers can get just as much value out of high-quality content as your prospects. And what may happen is you'll find that your current customers see there's a lot of value in your content, which will make them stickier, which will make them stay longer, and potentially become better customers, paying you more over time. And the last point is about making it interesting. I always have a rule of thumb. I read every piece of content that we put out, and if I don't find it interesting, sometimes we go back to the drawing board. It's very important that content has a perspective, and it's something that you would enjoy reading, and because if you're getting some value out of it, that means that your customers are going to get some value out of it. So that's my presentation. Again, feel free to reach out or contact me if you have any other thoughts or ideas or questions about my presentation. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Robert Drew from eMedia. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff, for your presentation. And now, reading for Robert is Andrew Ledette from eMedia's Creative Services team.
Hi, I'm Andrew Ledette, presenting for Bob Drew with eMedia. He created this presentation and will join us afterward for a Q&A. Thank you for your illuminating presentation, Jeff. As Jeff alluded to, the traditional sales funnel is useful for illustrating a couple concepts: the basic path taken by sales leads as they progress towards a sale, and the reality that most do not end up as sales. Let's discuss some practical applications of the lead funnel and cocktail shaker methods. But more specifically, let's see how they affect content selection and promotional choices for the enterprise market, solutions marketers, and the BtoB in general. We can use the traditional textbook version of the sales funnel to also illustrate where key types of content or where lead gen related services are most effective in theory. But then again, as we all know, in the sloppy, chaotic real-world, textbook diagrams do not conform to what actually happens. As Jeff mentioned, B2B decision makers do not want to talk to reps until they're good and ready to do so. Up to that point, they'll do their own research, and you better have a broad array of content types for them to absorb, touching on all relevant issues your audience may face and all problems decision makers may have. Buyers on average get 70% of the way through the purchase process before they engage a sales rep. Here lies your golden opportunity as a marketer. First, a bit about my company, eMedia. eMedia is an online media company that specializes in B2B lead generation. By the way, as you can see in the iron fillings pulled in by the magnet, they actually represent sales leads being pulled in by your campaigns. We use a combination of tactics to generate leads across a wide range of B2B audiences. A blend of outbound and inbound lead gen approaches to maximize exposure for our clients' white papers, webinars, ebooks, infographics, and other collateral. Most attractively, the vast majority of our clients work with us on a cost-per-lead basis. The CPL approach serves as a guarantee of results over the course of lead gen campaigns. According to Jeff's content matrix, prospects and customers' content interests are better described by a simple matrix in which time and purchase stage is much less relevant than portrayed in a sales funnel model. Jeff also provides excellent examples of content subject matter to consider for each quadrant of the matrix. As eMedia specializes in the prospect-oriented business of lead generation, we'd like to share our insights as to which common collateral types best fit into the prospect side of Jeff's matrix from our 13-plus years of experience. You can see them here in red. When prospects are gathering info on product and solutions, your features and benefits, it makes sense that comparison and research reports offer great utility, as do the tools and calculators mentioned by Jeff. Beyond that, this is where case studies tend to offer great value. Prospects learn a lot from seeing how others have implemented and gained value from your solutions. Product trials also go a long way towards engaging with prospects in this situation. Very commonly, prior to or along with product research, prospects seek to learn about issues at hand. They gather information on understanding the problem itself, as well as the array of solutions that may address it, how they may complement or conflict, and how yours may fit. A key example is IT security. New threats constantly crop up to threaten our sanity and well-being. IT managers are always on the lookout to stay on top of the latest threats, as well as for potential solutions. They frequently look at vendor white papers, ebooks, guides, webinars, both live and recorded, and well-designed research reports, or even listen to podcasts. More recently, formats such as infographics and hosted or shared short videos have become popular. All of these formats provide superior opportunities for companies to position themselves as thought leaders and elevate themselves in prospects' consideration sets for when they move from mere research towards investing in a solution. Finally, for you, the marketer, these collateral types work very well at identifying potential prospects who may nurture and build a relationship towards potential purchase. Educational collateral focusing on prospects in the insight-centric mode are the mainstay for lead acquisition and lead nurturing. Jeff reinforced the truth that prospects and customers are in control. Educate them, offer them the content they require, and make it available where and when they need it. You can also adopt this guideline within the content piece itself. Take a look at this page from within a modular or branching version of an eMedia white paper called Lead Generation from Start to Finish, a marketer's reference guide. See the red circle? It is a decision tree several pages into the paper itself. You, the reader and prospect, can select how you wish the paper to proceed based on your stage of the buying process. What you or your audience reads is what a white paper customized for your immediate situation. In addition to creating and customizing content for any prospect situation and interest point, you need to present this content where prospects look for it, or simply where prospects may be. Once again, they are in control of the research and buying process, not you. One place that you can count on prospects frequenting, their inbox. If you can get your collateral through to prospects' inboxes and present it there in a noticeable, attractive, and engaging manner, this can be golden. We encourage you to make the most of your house lists, run email campaigns, nurture your leads via ESPs and marketing automation tools, set up nurturing strategies with select content pieces like white papers, webinars, and others we've mentioned. But taking this much further, eMedia has deployed a series of weekly email bulletins bringing our clients' collateral items, their white papers, webinars, ebooks, etc., to our subscribers' inboxes for more than 13 years. This slide shows an example of a white paper for a cross-platform solution to enable better collaboration using the Salesforce CRM. These bulletins are branded for the interests of each audience. They get through recipients' firewalls and are expected by recipients on a regular basis. Content pieces are hand-picked to fit each audience. And there's a response mechanism to capture leads as people express interest and download advertisers' collateral. Taking the IT security professional when she's facing particular issues or problems. Content appearing in her inbox will turn her head. When she's unaware or only vaguely aware of a security issue beginning to rear its head, your solution is in a very good position if it's findable in her inbox, described within educational paper. And here's the same collateral, the same Salesforce piece, posted on a branded, audience-specific hosting site, retitled and customized for the different format. Prospects in a proactive research mode may find your collateral on your website, and you should always host it there in a resources section and optimize it for the search engines. We also suggest posting it in central hubs for resources, optimized for specific audiences. This is one run by us called Marketing Weekly. We have others designed for our other audiences too. Prospects in an active research mode looking for insights on a problem or issue with an eye towards investing in a solution should be reached whenever and wherever it's viable. Content hosting sites, content destinations for your audience, optimized to be found by prospects like yours, are also often increasingly regular destinations for decision makers. You should consider capitalizing on their opportunities as well as your own site and SEO. If you haven't done so already, begin building a social media strategy as it may fit your audience and its evolving behavior towards these communities. And as long as it brings measurable results, each of the major social media platforms can make your content more findable by the right people. In conclusion, to generate leads and turn them into sales in the BtoB cocktail shaker, capitalize on the insight-centric lower right corner quadrant of Jeff Perkins' graph when prospects are researching issues. Be findable through outbound lead gen, inbound lead gen, your website and SEO optimized, social media. Develop the content and collateral types most viable for your prospects. Your prospects and customers control the final decision, but with these insights, you can ensure you are one of their options. And that's it for me. Let's go to Kate and Bob for the Q&A.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for presenting for Robert. And now we've got Robert and Jeff on the line to answer questions. We've gotten a number of good questions in, so please feel free to send in more questions, and we'll get to as many as we can. So Jeff, you talked about different types of content. For example, ebooks, white papers, videos. Do you have any thoughts about vendor-generated content versus user-generated and outside content that marketers can use?
Well, we look at all kinds of content. We create a significant amount of our own content. We have analysts like Forrester and Gartner and Wayne House that are providers of content as well. And really, we take an approach that we want to have our own internal thought leadership. That's an important part of the value we think we can bring to current customers and prospects. But we recognize that just having our own voice is probably not enough, and we do like to bring in outside parties, with a lot of credibility in our space that can also provide a perspective. So I would say we do both. We probably do more of our own content just because we can control those resources more, and we have a content team that is constantly building new ebooks and white papers and blog posts. But we do like to have the outside sources as well. We feel it's an important part of our overall content strategy.
Thanks, Jeff. And Robert, I'm going to ask you the same question. What content types do you find generate the most leads, and then also what types of content generate the most closable leads?
From our experience, and our recent experience too, written content still rules. All types of content certainly has its place, as Jeff went through in his presentation. But from a purely measurable lead generation perspective in our part of the B2B world, written content rules, especially white papers and related piece types such as guides and ebooks. This sort of content puts you on prospects' radar and vice versa, puts prospects on your radar as you become aware of them downloading and reacting to your content. The most closable, I would say, generally, that's where issues like attribution analysis come into play, which is still an evolving area of marketing analytics. But just to generalize, we find that exposure to webinars and case studies are especially map well to closes and number of closes, but only after or along with exposure to written content such as white papers. And that sort of thing. So, I think this, in a general, pretty much agrees with Jeff's theses from his presentation.
Thanks, Robert. You mentioned using email as a distribution medium for content, whether it's through an e-digest or an email in general. Do you have any best practices for getting recipients to open, click through, or download content and using email?
Yeah, the from address is key. The studies have shown that is what people most look at when they're at the point of open. Second to that, according to studies, well, the subject line, as you'd imagine. We espouse, either on your own or through a vendor like us, using a regular vehicle that will be trusted and anticipated by recipients, such as an email newsletter or an email bulletin that can carry your content and your collateral through to them. They'll whitelist it, they'll get through their firewalls, and frankly, it'll help them develop a relationship with you. As if you consistently put out good content through it, it'll be something that they anticipate on a regular basis, however often you do publish it.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Jeff, is your Learning Center, you may have addressed this when you talked about content being geared toward customers as well as prospects, but is your Learning Center set up primarily for prospects or also for client learning and also maybe networking among users?
We feel it's set up for both. The content that we build, we view as added value whether you're a prospect or a current customer. We feel from a prospect point of view, having a lot of content really helps us with our search engine optimization. It's going to drive a lot of people into our site. So we really like having the volume of content. Just it helps generate more traffic. More traffic usually equates into more leads. But from a current customer point of view, we do e-newsletters that we send out to current customers or people who have signed up in our email newsletter database. And we see a lot of value in the content no matter if you're a prospect or a current customer. So we focus on building what we believe is high value, really interesting content that people will see value in. And we believe if they see value in it, they'll come back and consume more of it. And if they're a current customer and they're consuming a lot of our content, we believe that will be a more satisfied customer. And if they're a prospect and they're consuming our content, we believe that'll get us into the consideration set when that prospect is actually looking to buy an online meeting service or a audio conferencing service.
Thanks. And Jeff, you mentioned improving search results. How do you get the top performing search terms?
There are several ways to get it. You can, if you have an AdWords account, you can get it there. We use a tool called HubSpot, and HubSpot pulls some very user-friendly reports that just produces the top organic search terms that are driving traffic to the website, and that's where we monitor what are those key terms on an ongoing basis. Okay,
thank you. Robert, can you talk about gated collateral versus ungated collateral and giving the content access to users? Which do you suggest?
That's a good question. I suggest testing both. It really varies by market and your type of audience. One way to look at it is one thing that many people do is gate the fresher content, the newer stuff, and leave the older content ungated. On the one hand, ungated content can give you the advantage of turning your resource center into something that's more SEO friendly and more of a destination. Gated content, obviously allows you to capture respondents, prospects' information. So as you can develop a relationship with them and over time get them more of the right content that they may be looking for. But I guess another strategy is to gate the early stage content, typically early stage content such as white papers. I'm sorry, I'm going back to the lead funnel way of thinking, but lead acquisition type content such as white papers, while leaving other content open. It's really something that you need to test and find what works best for yourself.
Yeah, and Kate, I could add to that as well. In a lot of ways, we use the fresher content, the more recent content, especially if it's an ebook or a white paper. That'll be the gated content for us. And over time, we may open it up so you don't have to provide any information to get it. But we actually will often take information or sections of the gated content and put it into ungated content that's in our learning site or on our blog. And that's actually a nice way to share some of the information that's in that content, and it really whets the appetite of the people reading it, so they would want to give you information. They'd want to share their contact information so that they could then download the complete version of the content.
Thank you. So this question came in. Jeff, I'll ask you, do you recommend adding pictures to all of your content so that can be shared on Pinterest? And then also, what are some other ways you can use social media to push out content?
Sure. As far as Pinterest goes, when it comes to our business, we're not engaged there right now. We serve a B2B audience in the tech space. We survey the media habits of our audience. We find that Pinterest, while it seems to be gaining in adoption, is not a media where our audience spends a lot of time. So we don't look to Pinterest as one of our key mediums. As a result, we don't make our content pinnable, at least not right now. We will continue to track that, and over time we may look to put more of our content, get more of our content integrated with Pinterest. But for our other social channels, if you follow PGI on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you will see us constantly promoting our content. That's the majority of what we talk about in our social channel. We once in a while will highlight our products and features of our products, but that's really the minority of the tweets or posts that we make. It's usually about insights, content, research, infographics that we think are going to be interesting to our current customers and to our prospects.
Great, thanks. We've got time for one more question. I'm going to ask both of you this. And this, I'm not quite sure who said this in the presentation, but the question reads, you mentioned that you build what you believe to be high-value copy. How do you know it's high value? Is it content that your audience expresses interest in, or do you base it on analyst predictions? So who'd like to go first on that?
Jeff, maybe you can take it first.
Yeah, when I talk about high-value content, it is content that we feel is interesting, relevant, many times has some data or research attached to it, and that we know our end reader will like. And we know that by the past history of what people have consumed on our learning space and in our blog. So we generally have a sense of what's the content that's going to attract a lot of people to our website, and we build more of that. And then we find new takes on that content, and then we do research about that topic so we can maybe bring a new perspective or some new data or some new insights that people haven't seen before. And many times when we also call it the high-value content, a lot of that content are in ebook or white paper format as well. So they have a little more meat to them. Usually they're longer formats. We spent more time and energy developing that content. So that's when we talk about the high-value content, that's how we would define it.
Thanks, Jeff. And Robert, how do you determine the highest value content?
Well, I totally agree with all of Jeff's points. And I would say beyond that, the variety of content. As Jeff mentioned in his presentation, you really need a range of content to accommodate the variety of ways that content consumers elect to consume content. And, I guess that's kind of a macro level look at high value content.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for questions. I would like to once again thank our speakers today, Jeff Perkins and Robert Drew, and our sponsor, emedia, and thanks to all of you for listening. If you didn't get to your questions today, you can head over to the emedia booth where friendly representatives there can answer your questions. And this has been Kate Maddox, Executive Editor at BtoB. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.